Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another edition of Scaleway Sessions. I am Dan, the head of developer relations here at Scaleway, and I am pleased as punch that you could join us either live on Twitch, twitch.tv/Scaleway, or on YouTube, or if you're watching us on the replay, thank you so much. Super appreciate it. Make sure to smash the like and subscribe and all the things that the people like to say. Fantastic. I am, as almost always, of course, joined, this time on stream, live. We can even see his face today, by Diego. Diego, the man normally behind the scenes, managing the stream, managing the chat, managing the crawlers, managing the soundboard, if we're going to see a little bit of that today. So thank you so much for helping out with all the infrastructure. It's appreciated every time. This is one of our special editions that we like to do. We try to do them about once a month, called Dr. Kube, where we invite a specialist, in this case a specialist in the world of Kubernetes, to come and talk about Kubernetes. And we basically just kind of come on and we ask a bunch of questions that we scrape either from our support forums or from Reddit or from wherever it is. Today we're going to take it in a little bit different direction. Today we've asked Engin Diri, who will introduce himself in a second, to come and chat about a subject that's very near and dear to his heart, and that is the sort of intersection of AI, machine learning, et cetera, and Kubernetes. So I think we're going to have a really good time today, and I hope you enjoy it as well. As always, do please feel free to comment either on YouTube or on Twitch. We do see the comments here in our streaming interface. As always, if you're on one of the many different Slacks that we all share, feel free to send me messages there. I like that very much as well. And definitely hit us up on Twitter. As always, we super appreciate it. So without further ado, Engin, why don't you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. My name is Engin Diri. I'm working as a customer experience architect at Pulumi. Probably you may heard from Pulumi. We're doing infrastructure as code. With a twist, we're using generic purpose languages, and then you can use, for example, Go, TypeScript, or whatever programming language you are firm with for creating your infrastructure. So that's my background, and it's a pleasure to be here. So thanks again for the invite. And yeah.
Excellent. So for those of you in the audience who have maybe not either heard of Pulumi, and now you have, but have maybe not used Pulumi, what is Pulumi used for?
Yeah. With Pulumi, you can create your infrastructure. So for example, let us take, for example, Scaleway. So I want to create my infrastructure. So I have different ways to proceed to create this. One would be, hey, I go to the UI, I click ops my way through and generate every resource I need and provide whoever is dependent of it with the input database, passwords, URLs, and so on. Then you have another approach to say, okay, I'm using the Scaleway CLI, I have bash scripts or whatever, so I'm using the Scaleway CLI to generate my infrastructure. This is something you will see also very often, still see this very often. People have some very sophisticated bash scripts running. And then, of course, you have the infrastructure as code area. So Pulumi, we have also our competitor here with Terraform, for example, or Crossplane. So everybody has a different view angle on this. We at Pulumi, for example, we use generic purpose languages. We say, hey, don't leave your existing tool chains. You don't need to learn a DSL. You don't need to have a break of your knowledge. You can continue in the development tool of your choice. Either be part of a development team that you say, okay, I'm also in charge of creating the infrastructure, or as an operational platform team to say, okay, we encapsulate something behind APIs or behind a developer portal, for example, and they call in TypeScript written infrastructure code in Pulumi. So there are different ways, but in the core, infrastructure provisioning with generic purpose language.
Excellent. Thank you for that concise explanation. It's as if you've delivered it in the past. Very well done. So we first sort of all connected, on the interwebs. If I first sort of time that I can remember seeing your name pop up sort of in the sphere of Scaleway was with some experiments you were running around. I think it was a virtual development environment on Scaleway, and then so on and so forth. And we sort of developed a little bit of a relationship. Now, we do this, it's the Scaleway sessions. but we don't necessarily just talk about Scaleway, right? We try to keep it general, we try to keep it light, talk about a lot of things.
Yeah.
But when we can talk about Scaleway, it's nice. So just wanted to publicly, thank you, honestly, for the work, for the contributions, for sort of including us in your experiments, along with, obviously other cloud providers, other technologies, right? But it's nice that, it's nice to feel like we're part of the ecosystem, because we are.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Go ahead and follow Engin. Here's his Twitter address or Twitter handle down here.
That's it. Yeah, right underneath Diego there.
High quality content.
High quality content, exactly.
Yeah, that's very nice. But yeah, it's not doing here some kind of advertising. I'm not paid by Scaleway for any means to advertise this, but I'm really a huge fan of independent cloud provider apart from the big ones. We all know Azure, we all know AWS and GCP, so know things about them. We use them in our work, but we also see new cloud provider coming up with a special mission, for example. Scaleway as a European cloud provider, I really like the mission to say, okay, we need something here in Europe, we need to have a sovereignty or a data sovereignty here. That's one part I really like about having other cloud providers. The other thing which I really liked about Scaleway is the way you handle green computing. I mean, that you get I don't know if you have to link by hand, but that you get the data from your data center, what the consumption of energy. I mean, I know there are special terms for this. Sorry if I say it wrong for some data center specialists, but having the opportunity to see and having a data center who are embedded in existing infrastructure, like the one in the catacombs of Paris, reusing ways to cool the data centers without putting too much pressure on our ecological footprint. It's really something I highly admire, and that's really cool. I like the lore going on at Scaleway. So
excellent. Well, thank you so much for that. Really, really appreciate the shout out. Thank you. But okay, so enough about that. We were talking about quality content. Let's actually get into the quality content, right? And so this is called Dr. Kube, and again, this is a little bit of a special edition of a special edition. Right, where instead of taking questions, about specific questions around Kubernetes, which is a lot of fun to do, and we're definitely gonna do that again going forward. Today, we thought it would be really fun to talk about something that is, obviously everybody, the hot topic, the flavor of the day, the thing that's on everybody's minds. Of course, is AI. It's machine learning. It's language models. It's take the acronym, take the descriptor that you like, and there's a lot of chat now about how do we do this responsibly, what does it mean, et cetera, et cetera. Today, we're actually not going to dive into that, right? There's a lot of content, there's a lot of long thought pieces. You can go follow the leaders on LinkedIn and like and subscribe there. What we really wanted to focus on today was what can machine learning / AI / language models / et cetera do for us as engineers today, right? Like actually, how can we be leveraging this technology, this thematic, et cetera, to get actual work accomplished, right? To have real impact in our day jobs now, right? So with respect to Kubernetes, because of course it is an Ask Dr. Kube session, we're gonna really, really focus in on this one area. How can we intersect ChatGPT and Kubernetes? How can we intersect, OpenAI and Kubernetes, right? Where does that happen? And Engin's been nice enough to say, yeah, okay, I'll take that plunge. I'll take that challenge. And this is an area we wanted to dive into. So I've got a list of resources that we were kind of kicking around before we started the stream today. The most obvious one is pulumi.com/AI. Right, because you work at Pulumi, so there's an AI component there. That's not necessarily where we need to start, but we do want to have an opportunity to take a look at that, give a shout out on that. There are some other interesting things, though, some open source repositories that we could be talking about, et cetera, et cetera. So before we dive into specifics, in your own words, you're the doctor today, you're the subject matter expert, right? What can we expect as infrastructure engineers, as DevOps engineers, as platform engineers, from the maturity level of AI Viz Kubernetes today? Is this thing literally rolling out and self-managing and self-healing all of our Kubernetes clusters distributed globally across multiple data centers? I magically transmit to the hive mind what I want, and then it appears, or is it not that?
Yeah, that's a very good point. You mentioned this. So I can only talk now about the point, as you mentioned at the beginning, not about the science behind this, to say, okay, we as practitioner, we as persons who use this, how can AI help us? So there are some tools already existing but I think we will see much more. I mean, every company is now rushing, probably who did not already created some kind of AI integration will probably rush and create some. So I think KubeCon NA this year, maybe KubeCon EU Paris will also show everybody has some kind of that's true, has some kind of AI integration going on to a certain extent. We know currently there are some limitations, and whoever used ChatGPT and tried to play around will quickly find out that hallucination of the AI is a big issue. I mean, even with Pulumi AI, for example, sometimes you get results. I mean, we feed the data model. The Pulumi AI, for example, has its own data model. The engineers are really working on it, but still, you get some situation where you completely make up something, and you still have to debug what he presented. And that's the reason I come into the show and also selected some of the things is I can already see increase in my productivity, even if I have to go through it and have to fix some parts of it, because we are not there currently. Like you said, we are not there to use our natural language and can rely that we get all the time the same results. I mean, you have to hardly tweak on your prompts to say, okay, I can get reproducible results with the same question. More than often you see you get different results every time you run the same question, because the system makes up something and you have to redefine the stuff. But still, with these problems or with this little not situations, we have to redefine what we ask. It's still an improvement. For example, I use our own tool very heavily. So before, I'm working in professional service, so when we have a customer problem, I have to recreate the situation, getting quickly, the customer has a problem in Python with whatever. I can go now in our AI system and ask quickly and say, can you create please an AWS EKS instance? I just type it and he spits out the Python of me. I just copy paste the stuff, put it in my IDE and just make a Pulumi app, for example. Most of the time, it works depending on things. Sometimes I have to work, but it already gave me an advantage because I can quicker answer questions. I can go quicker back to the customer and not losing some time with making stuff from the scratch. And things, HTML, CSS, all the stuff, I just go in, ask, create me a website, and he creates the stuff. I recently made a blog post on my private blog where I said, let us learn Rust with ChatGPT. So I created different, I said to him, please, ChatGPT, generate me an agenda because I want to learn Rust. And the thing really worked and gave me the stuff. And I could really start working with Rust.
Amazing.
I mean, you have to still a little bit take attention to say, okay, what does he explain? Is it really not make up? But the code example, when you say, please show me, for example, borrowing with code examples, hey, that was something. And I can see this now more and more growing, that you get AI generated avatars. We saw some examples. There are companies out there. So feeding the different stuff, and then you get your teacher or voice where I can talk to the AI system and say, hey, explain me please Chinese. And he teaches me Chinese. I answer and he analyzes what I'm saying and give me hints on my pronunciation and so on. I think that's huge. So even without being a data guru in the back, I can see as an end user, as a practitioner already a huge advantage.
I got a question for you. Do you actually say please? Are you just making sure when AI takes over, they will spare you?
I swear, I even don't correct my spelling errors. Sometimes I just write 2 words like again, another try, and he just continues. I don't know why people, I mean, everybody does what they want to do, but I'm not doing this kind of behavior. I don't see it as a person, it's for me something I just quickly type my stuff. I say to him again, another try, remove, and sometimes I have spelling errors, and this is the interesting part
Yeah,
of ChatGPT. This thing
doesn't matter.
it doesn't
Doesn't
matter.
matter. It doesn't matter.
Sometimes I just answer no, wrong, and it will understand. It will give me another answer.
Yeah, I come from the time where I started with C64 Commodore with BASIC, and I still have it in my brain, syntax error, getting all the time the syntax error
Yeah.
because you wrongly typed a wrong command and so on, and here the system is like, boom, spit out the stuff. So very, very interesting. And I'm even not talking about now Midjourney and all this stuff, saying,
Yeah.
okay, I want to create a 3D game, how I can create the assets with Midjourney, getting 3D models rendered, and then asking ChatGPT to use a Unity engine to bootstrap me a program. And this is working. I saw examples on YouTube from people who tried this, and I was amazed how quickly you can generate your
Yeah,
scaffold for a game, for example.
indeed. So putting it in the context of Kubernetes, how do you suggest we get started? Because we have many paths from what I can see. Based on your experience, what should be our first step?
I mean, there's one thing that is one of the products or the projects I brought with me is the kubectl AI plugin. So you
Right.
can download a AI plugin for kubectl. Maybe you can share, or should I share this on the screen? Let me.
So you
Here's the
got the
link.
URL
Yeah.
up there. Yeah. So it's github.com/sozercan/kubectl-AI.
Quebec Cattle.
Okay, I don't know if it's sharing already.
Let's share your screen.
Yeah,
Just
Diego
a
has to work some
second.
magic there.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So while Diego's getting that scene set up, what is it that we're going to be looking at here?
Yeah, the kubectl that's you probably had from your previous sessions you had. It's one of the main interaction elements with Kubernetes. So you have your kubectl CLI if you're not doing some other fancy GitOps way to deploy your workload. So kubectl is your tool of the choice. And kubectl has the nice feature that you can extend it with plugins. So you can write a plugin.
Yeah.
And also there is a cool store to distribute the kubectl called Crew. So you can distribute them, people can install the plugins. And here somebody, and I want to give props where it has to be. So Sertac created a plugin connecting to OpenAI, where you, let me see here an example, a better example, use just the call kubectl AI and then use natural language that he does something. In this case, we can say create a namespace, create a full namespace. And then it's creating us a namespace. This is really, really nice. I mean, having now the opportunity to describe what you want to do without starting to write all the lines of YAML all the time, the boilerplate to say, okay, I need to create an API version kind and so on. So this is really an amazing opportunity in my eyes. And it's just a start. So you can use it as a recommendation, and then continue working with it. Paste it in your YAML file, open it with your IDE, and then if there's still an error or something you want to add to it, just go ahead. So
Then use Copilot and fix it.
yeah, use Copilot to fix it, and that's a really cool approach. So I like this very, very much, this plugin, and it shows what is possible when the systems we are using having possibilities to extend. Here in this case, who had thought about this, that the kubectl plugin functionality will be one day used to extend with an AI system who translate natural language to actual YAML code I can then use.
Indeed.
So what would be the advantage of using this above using what would consider possibly a standard templating engine, right? Like there's only so many ways, there's only so many templates that you're going to use. And if you're talking about it spitting out boilerplate, well, that's by definition boilerplate. So why would I want to say create namespace foo when I could just, to a standard plugin, issue -- create namespace -- name equals foo or something like that.
Yeah, and now we come again to the part where we at the beginning. So the playing part is always also something to say, okay, people start to think about this. I agree with you that maybe this is okay when you're a student or you're working on your home cluster or you want to learn Kubernetes, for example, and say, okay, I just, maybe I don't know how a persistent volume claim looks like. I'm too lazy to look it up now or whatever. So again, but it shows again the possibility of playing. So imagine now we get completely rid as a plugin and just type now or stuff, having a prompt or having a way that listening for an input, and I just continue typing it. So even leaving the whole templating stuff and say, okay, is it possible to not use this, or create a template for me, ask him to say, hey, create me a Helm chart with all this stuff inside. So that's again, we are at the beginning, and people try different things out and need to understand what's the way. I mean, and I think that shows very good. It looks interesting. Currently, you would say it's a toy or it's a gadget or something, but it gives us ideas. I often use the analogy. You probably saw Terminator 2, where they find the hand in the research facility of Cyberdyne Systems, and the guy who found the hand and worked with it, he said it was broken, the chip was broken, but it gave him ideas. They started to play around. So actually the thing was just a Kickstarter ignition for more. So that's the reason Cyberdyne started then to actually build Skynet, but having only the pieces and playing around gave them the idea, okay, what can we do, what is possible, how we extend. And I see this the same. It gives us an idea. But this is now on the left side for me as a developer, to say, maybe I'm not having a dedicated operations team. Maybe I am the operations team at the beginning. So it's something to start the day zero, actually, to build up stuff and use this generated stuff then to template it in my way I want to deliver at the end in a Helm chart.
I like that you went directly to Skynet as the example for we're at the early days of AI.
Yeah.
Well done. Well done.
Yeah.
But no, but I think it's a fair, Skynet's not necessarily a fair comparison, but to talk about us being in the early days and just going like, look, we don't know what we can do yet.
Yeah.
That's the level of maturity we're at yet. It's not necessarily, we're not even mature enough to say we're immature. We're at the we don't know yet, right? Yeah. So having, the beginner mind coming into it and just saying, look, maybe this isn't actually useful specifically yet, but maybe as we play around with it as a community, we figure out ways to make it useful.
Yeah.
Right? That's fair. And that's a good spot to be in. It's just be experimental, keep an open mind, realize that this is some R&D level stuff, and that, we're going to get out of it only what we put into it at this point.
Yeah. And then we come now to the next point, because now comes the interesting part to say, okay, we know now how to generate stuff, but what's the next step? So the next tool I brought, and it's really gaining much traction, and it's also submitted for CNCF sandboxing. Diego, let me know when it's on screen. Okay, so it's Kate's GPT. So there are a whole bunch of people behind this. Most prominent is Alex Jones, who's working on this. And they did a very, very good approach to give us, they call it here, Kubernetes superpowers for us as an SRE or a DevOps engineer to have the possibility to analyze some of the outputs of Kubernetes, for example. We all know event or whatever logs coming out of the system are not really something we instantly understand. Maybe we never encountered them, or we did just plain don't know it. So we can ask Kate GPT to say, hey, please give me, analyze this, the error message, and give me a suggestion how to fix this. So that's very, very nice. You have different settings. It's a CLI. They even have a operator where you can deploy it also in the cluster. And he keeps on looking for all the events and give you an output there. So again, integration. We have our OpenAI. They have also different models that you can also run a local AI. You can use the one from Bing, from Microsoft, for example. So you have different possibilities to connect different AI systems. Let me see what they currently. Azure OpenAI, for example. So they have also local AI, Azure AI. So there are interesting functionalities already there. One thing I liked very much, and this goes kudos to the people who are working on this, is the anonymization. So sometimes you use Kubernetes with some specific labels or some informations you don't want to send to a system. So maybe you should not copy paste everything you got from your internal systems and put it in your ChatGPT prompt and send it out. Learns. You never know what happens, then something understands, somebody asks, hey, how does Scaleway blah blah blah, because somebody at engineering or the Pulumi used all the time some internals and the system gets exposed via clever prompting. So what the people from Kate's GPT is doing, they do anonymization of the data before they sending it to the AI and then putting the informations back again when the result comes back from the AI system. So, very interesting functionality. And now we come to the next step to say, okay, we have now a system which can be installed as an operator into this. So, what could be the next step? The next step could be to say, why do I need to still analyze the stuff? When the model gets better, can I let it in autopilot? Like we have currently drones. When a drone cannot connect to the central system, there is still some kind of AI going on, so the system can autarkically still work. So we can say, okay, maybe we are in a remote environment, maybe we are in an edge situation. We are not. We don't have any contact. We have always said in my former place, the construction sidecar. I don't know how you say this in English. Made a cut through the internet cables.
Right.
So we don't have any
Right.
connections. We need to send somebody out with the car who goes there, but the system itself, the facility itself, is still working. So what happens when you say, okay, there is an AI working inside there, which can still analyze and remediate issues and can still do some basic operations and basic fixing, like setting the resource or stopping whatever, without my intervening, because he uses different informations, he uses Prometheus data and so on, and gets out and say, hey, wait, there is something going on and I can fix this when it comes. And you even didn't thought about this, you didn't create a playbook for it, or you didn't create anything. So the system, and imagine, keeps on learning, you feed the things still into the system. So that's also a very interesting approach, and I think that will be probably the next steps going on, having intelligence deployed to your cluster, which does much more than static playbooks can do, because there's the dynamic part of it.
Well, that's
Yeah.
it. So I mean, so static playbooks, as any good system operator, I can tell you, are really good at dealing with situations that have already happened.
Yeah.
Right? So if we already know that a thing could occur, and we already have a procedure in place to deal with that thing occurring, and you just follow it,
Yeah.
right? And then of course the idea of playbooks then became runbooks, and then runbooks became automized, and automated. There was the whole the whole run deck moment, and so on and so forth. And now what you're proposing, and I think this is quite interesting, right, is to go, okay, but like what comes next? What comes after playbooks and runbooks, which is starting to think about how do we deal with situations where we don't know what to do, or situations where we haven't seen this exact thing in the past. We've seen things like it, right? Like there's a thing over here that's it's sort of like this playbook, and it's sort of like this playbook, and it's sort of and this thing over here we haven't seen before. Is it possible for some sort of machine learning algorithm, right? I'll stay as generic as I can with the terminology, right? To analyze that data and come to a conclusion of, well, given this set of factors and given this set of factors and given the data set that I have available to me, here is the playbook I would propose, right? And then thinking forward on that, how much do we trust it to actually do the thing?
Yeah.
Right?
That's a good point. That's a good point to say. Okay, what? Again, we're at the beginning, so we don't know how things coming. And I expect that all the observability companies like Dynatrace, Instana, and so on, who sit on this data and sit maybe on data also from different companies, can feed a model and with additional informations. And then, as you said, I somehow be part of a swarm intelligence where I didn't encounter this on my own people didn't encounter this, because at the end of the day a human had to look on it and still have to look on Stack Overflow or whatever to find what is this thing, that the system maybe either like the first beginnings of Case GPT give you remediation tips and in natural language, or as you said, we activate it for certain stuff, and now we become back to the beginning because we are able to get the prompt repeatable. So every time when when a pod crashing because the CPU and the memory limit something going on, he doesn't hallucinate me now. With the fifth time, he says, "Hey, it's because of the sun is in the whatever in the Mars area. So that's the reason the system is crashing." No,
Solar flare.
yeah, he says every time to me the same answer because it's repeatable. But and this is what we said at the beginning with the different AI products. So everybody who has big data lying around or having the possibility will probably come up. And I see that observability companies having this thing will be probably giving us also some AI assistants, or already have them out where you come. And this is also the last product I brought. This was also an early example. Let me share my screen. The people from Robusta created a Kubernetes chat GPT bot. I like this also very much. So this one, Robusta is also a company for creating, watching your cluster, giving you advices on how to set up the cluster and how to remediate special errors. And here they made an early example of connecting your alerts you get, because the system can be connected to your to Slack, for example, and then sending the alert back to ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT, hey, as you can see here from the video, so you get the alerts sent automatically because that's the way the Robusta can be configured, and then using OpenAI to give you an answer. So similar in the Case GPT. So this is also an early example. It's not the main program, it's open source, you can work with this, but again shows you what is possible. So here we have the situation like you said before, then we have an error, but we configured the system to ask us still, and then to repair, and then we can see if the answer is okay or not, and can then decide, okay, we implement the suggestion because he's not making up some stuff. So also a very interesting product, and as you see, using here existing data sources, for example, here Prometheus just connected.
It's early days. Amazing. We can just ask, what the hell? What's going on? Then you act.
But what is this?
Right?
What is this if it's not just a proxy for sending alerts to was it OpenAI or ChatGPT? Doesn't matter. The point is it anything more than literally just a tunnel to send a data packet from one place to another place, or is that actually doing some sort of something?
No, it was here in this case. It's just connecting this two two systems which normally are not connected in the current setup, and say, okay, I get the alert because I use my chat ops. So the system gives me every time in my system, and then what happens normally in a chat ops environment? Maybe you get it, and then you have to look up your books and so on. Here in this case, you could quickly ask. You say, okay, before I look up, this is something maybe I don't know, so I click quickly on the button. So an integration, and that's what I said. The product is not core of Robusta. I think it's Nathan, who's very active here, did some first tries and also some investigation playing around, and we come back to the theme. Everything is currently, people try borders, boundaries, getting experience and understanding how the system behaves, and as you said, when is the system making up stuff, or when is it safe enough to rely on it. Yeah.
We had here in Paris a meetup actually just earlier this week. So we do also another monthly meetup here in Paris called The Jam. We're on summer break officially, by the way, right now, but do check out scaleway.com/en/events. To get a list of all the events we've got coming up. Again, summer break here in France, so it's going to be a little quiet until September. But on the previous edition we had just earlier this week, we had Dustin Coates from Algolia who came and talked about stuff they were doing with AI. And they were doing the context of Kubernetes. They were doing it in the context of basically search. So Algolia is a company that does search as a service. So, you know, it's like you type something into Google and it gives you a response, except it's domain specific. It's along your website, it's along your product, so on and so forth. Anyway. Like a lot of organizations, they've been interested in AI, and they've been interested in AI for actually quite some time. They've worked with natural language models and so on and so forth for many years, right? So it's a natural evolution for them. And so this is an organization that is a unicorn in terms of valuation. They have a mature product, it's been around for many years. They have very, very competent, high-level engineers spending a lot of time, a lot of brain cycles, thinking about AI, thinking about language models, about OpenAI, GPT, so on and so forth. And Dustin comes on stage and is very reasonable about it. He says, look, here's the deal. We've been thinking about this for longer than most companies have. We've been working with this for longer than most companies have outside of pure AI research. We've implemented this in our product longer than most companies have. It still hallucinates things. Right? We still can't 100% trust it. Right? And so I look at that and I go, what is the most ideal possible implementation of large language models on restricted data sets, and they still don't trust it 100%. I think if all we can do as engineers is get to a spot where we can start to have a conversation about what the problem might be, that's already pretty good, right? That's an already pretty good thing. This alert goes off, we're like, I don't know, and then OpenAI comes back, goes, I don't know, maybe this?
Yeah.
Actually, that sounds a lot like what I do on a daily basis, right? An alert fired off, and I turn to the engineer beside me, I go, do you have any idea what this is? And they go, I don't know, maybe this?
When you spend half a day trying different ideas and then somebody leans back and says, I have another one, and then you try it, and yeah, I think that's the thing. So maybe you are lucky and it gets quicker because it has a bigger experience and bigger data set behind this. But again, currently, as you said correctly, you cannot 100% trust the data, the results coming back. But it gives you a good starting point to say, hey, I didn't thought about this, or this helps me very quickly to come up with the stuff. And I see this also now from a Pulumi part when we talk with our customers. Now, when we go to Pulumi AI, for example, everybody we talk with our customers, they are so much interested and they really say, hey, can we talk with our engineers? Is it our own data model? And we said, yeah, it's our own data model. How did they do this? Because we want to work also on this. So bigger names also say, yeah, is it something we can connect? Because they want to create also a system, or they have a question because their system doesn't behave like they expected it. So I can see a huge interest in this topic, and people start to exchange each other. And the whole idea, now coming back again from my point of view, I'm not a data scientist, I'm not an ML guru or something like this. I'm like the person who get his first iPhone. I mean, phones existed before, but the iPhone made everything accessible, So the way on handle apps, apps existed before I created Java ME applications, also to distribute to your Palm or whatever. but it never get this acceleration when Apple comes with the App Store. So then I see the whole OpenAI, GPT stuff, the same thing. They managed to make it so accessible or so usable for the people that you see 3 different products from different people who can easily create something, one in Go, one in Rust, whatever, and this is, I think, very cool. And as you said, many companies are like this. Yeah, we did this many years ago. Yeah, but you did not probably find the way to make it accessible for people. So yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, and we've been doing this for many years, since, 2015, when research papers became more and more frequent about AI. And now we are having research papers being released every single month on new advances. Things are moving fast, quite fast. And yeah, we are in the early days when, again, we can ask, what the hell's happening with my cluster? And give me options. And pretty soon, I'm sure, it will be able to self-heal with some supervision. And then, who knows how long in the future, many weeks in the future, it will be able to do so by itself.
Yeah.
Because that's how things are moving nowadays, quite fast.
Yeah, absolutely. That's for true. Then let me just quickly share on my last tool I brought with you. And this, again, no advertising. I just wanted to show, to say, okay, we saw now different Kubernetes solutions. So here, this is our own data model. We released it at the beginning of KubeCon EU. So we can say we were a little bit ahead of the hype. So that's the thing. So started with the thing before everybody else come with something. So here, let us choose one of our languages we are supporting. I choose now TypeScript, and now we can ask him and says, let me say create an S3 bucket in AWS using the AWS provider and export the URL. So let us run.
No, please.
So, and then he creates me example. Sometimes the system, depending on the prompt you're asking, even says what you have to install, for example, and give you even more. So I could even use it to generate content. And this is also, I'm not sure, let me spoil this, but some colleagues also working on, say, okay, is there a possibility to make also content generation with AI, with Pulumi AI, for example? So, and as we can see, we got now a TypeScript program. I can now copy paste it, for example, or I can use here the convenient functions to just create the steps for me. And then I can run it, and this is actually working very fine. So we can also say, let us go to the Kubernetes and say, create a Kubernetes deployment and service of an Nginx. Nginx image container.
It's very satisfying keyboard clicking noises as you do that too. I like that. It's very nice.
Of an Nginx container. Let's see what comes here. I was last time in a meetup where I used the second part of my my presentation. I really made it only with Pulumi AI, and that was also, people were really surprised that, okay, the deployment of an Nginx with an own, not only bringing the Nginx standard text, but also substituting it, it was really amazing. So, and here we can see he creates now my Nginx in my service. That's really amazing. He even created the dependencies with each other. So he created a deployment. He used the load balancer. Okay, maybe I can refine this. I could add the replica here to free and so on. So now I could, let us go for security. Add security to run as non-root You see, I'm not writing big prosa texts in my prompts, so I'm very so. Okay, and then he comes here with the pod security policies and creates this. So I would here maybe head it to say to not use pod security policies, but
I think this is the part that makes me feel like our jobs are safe for a while. Being able to understand that you actually need to tell it, hey, we need to make it secure, so don't use root.
yeah,
Right? The knowledge that you have from your experience, that at some point machines will get it, yeah, but for now you're kind of safe, at
yeah.
least for a few weeks.
So that's something for sure. So here I would say to him, hey, don't use pod security policy. So the deployment. So let's see if he can refine this. Okay, now he sets the security context. So again, yeah, I had to analyze. I said, okay, I don't want to put. Now comes the part. Maybe I'm not a prompt engineer. Maybe I had to get my prompt a little bit more detailed. But I think that's just the demo case. But this looks now much better. So we have the security context set, and here set it as non-root. That's very fine. So that's a good start. And I stop this now. But here we can see how the system helps us to write and to kickstart, to help. Now we come in the situation, who are the persons who are using this? Again, could be somebody has the task to create a new functionality into an existing IAC and the documentation. Something I have to be also very honest that not every time I understand the documentation of every project. So I always go to Stack or whatever and look around. I mean, now I'm working currently a little bit on Backstage, and I had even to go to Discord and ask there because I was like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing here. Help me. So
Can you quickly explain what Backstage is for
yeah.
the folks out there?
Backstage is a CNCF sandbox project donated from Spotify, where you have a way to create your own IDP. So it delivers you the framework. It has some kind of engine going on, and now you have to post. It's nothing you can out of the box install and it works. Something like this. You have still currently in the iteration they have. You have to exactly. You make git clone. You own it because you have to change also code. React code to integrate stuff. So the way to extend it, it's really like changing code, and but it gives you a way for you as a platform team or you as a central service team to create defined abstractions, defined paths. They call it golden paths, where you can say, here, dear development team, this is the way how we do at company X microservices, and you just enter your properties you need, and then it spits out your Git repository, it provisions your infrastructure, it gives you the kube config or initialize your GitOps operator, and then you're good to go, and you just go in your code base and change your way, because we found out that the complexity, now we come back to the AI part, the complexity is huge, and people actually are paid to deliver business value and not to run the most beautiful Kubernetes cluster. I mean, even if you and we disagree, because that's part of our way that we want that people use infrastructure, they should focus on what they want to do, delivering business values, and not waste too much time with how do you say this, work they are not meant to do.
Yeah, we had a similar conversation last week when we talked about testing. What are you trying to deliver in the end? Like actual code that is fully tested, or just deliver business value?
Yeah.
Yes, that's a question that's been going around
Always.
between these sessions.
I mean, it's the only real question, right? If you work for a living, as many of us do, we get paychecks. We're expected to deliver some sort of value to the organization that gives us that paycheck. And so the fundamental question of every single thing we do over the course of a day is this thing that I'm doing right now connected to value? Now, I'm not saying we literally ask this question. I'm not saying we're robots that have to generate money, et cetera, et cetera. But like, we talk about capitalism, and we do spend a lot of time on Scaleway sessions talking about
Oh
capitalism,
yeah,
right? Which we really do,
that and how to
right?
pronounce kubectl.
Yes, that and how to pronounce that word, exactly. Those are two favorite topics. But at the end of the day, yeah. So, if we like to try to apply this question, that we like to ask, which is the thing that we're doing, a good way of us to spend our time, right? Are we generating value? Is this a valuable way for us to be spending our time, our resources, our brain cycles, our investment of emotional and intellectual energy, right? And I feel like right now it's really, really easy to fall down this rabbit hole of well, ChatGPT will solve all the problems, and I'm going to get really, really good at prompt engineering. I think it's very seductive. I've fallen down that rabbit hole. I think everybody has, right?
Yeah.
Where you start to ask questions and you start to get kind of a feel for how to ask the questions, and a feel for, there's some syntax sugar you learn, and so you can start to be like, no, like when you say this, substitute this instead, and then it does that, and it learns, and so on and so forth. I think that's actually really interesting. And thinking now to this idea of, say, generating, Pulumi code, or generating, whatever, right? Generating code, generating says, there's an interesting value proposition there, right? Which is, I could sit down and master this DSL, for example, right? And get really, really, really good at efficiently writing, the HCL, or efficiently writing, the Puppet configuration language, or like whatever it is, right? Or should I get actually really good at understanding what it is that my business does, and how it is that the infrastructure supports those business operations, right? I can only spend my time doing one of those two things. Can't do both at the same time. Which one, right? And if we go, I'm going to get really, really good at this DSL, someone else has to get really, really good at understanding the business thing and then hand me those and I write the thing. Whereas if I get really good at the business thing and I just tell the AI to write some boilerplate code to make infrastructure go, maybe it's not the most efficient. Maybe I'm spinning up a slightly larger instance size than I need. Maybe I'm not splitting my buckets at exactly the right byte count for the size of the files. Yeah, yes. But what actually is more valuable at the end of the day?
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's a really interesting question,
Yeah.
I think. And maybe that's where the early value of a lot of this tooling, we talk about AI tooling with Kubernetes, AI to spit out code, AI to spit out this, that. Is it perfect? Can we trust it? These are really, really good questions.
Yeah.
Definitely ask them.
Yeah. And you can see from my example, the security aspect. So he spits you out a vanilla stuff. So this is one thing. And I'm sure everybody who watches coming with a security background is like this, like, oh my God, what is he talking there and why he's hyping? Yeah. We have a field reality and we have the theoretical part. In the theoretical world, yes, you have to think about this, but we see also in the living reality we are in, things coming. So we need also the input from security and also say, okay, systems who are spitting the stuff. If I'm not trained as Kubernetes and I ask an AI, create me a Kubernetes deployment, as you said, it gives me a quick start, but I would still currently need a system or a person giving the security input. There are many, many tools out there, Treevy, whatever, who gives you the feedback. But here comes it, because I don't know that you can, honestly, security context and so on, if a group and so on, you have to know this. If I don't know this, I would not ask it in my prompt, and the system doesn't deliver it for out of the box because it's not built currently or not set up to say, I give you always the best practices. Because what is best practices in a world? Yeah, there's maybe a minimum set, but then it comes all the exception. It comes a person says, hey, my cluster is completely autark and you have to go with a USB stick there to change whatever. So I don't care if it's whatever because nobody can access this. And again, that's a big thing. And we see what happens when security taken too light. We saw the accidents last couple of weeks ago when we completely maybe not see security as also as an elemental part, because not, as you said, always quick and always being first and generating quick values, because sometimes you have to step back. So it's the balance and making pursuit. But when we have the possibility of a good AI system, when I ask the right question, things are already inbuilt. You see, I save time and maybe, can again go back to my business part or to my part where I actually want to deliver something. So it's I think the tenor of the talk today is it's interesting. Play around, work around, participate if you want, and see what comes up. And be open-minded, and because there's always the question, should we fear AI and so on and so on. I would say be open-minded, try the things out, get your own experience, because I think AI is here, or this way of AI is here to stay, and we have to get used to it. I mean, my daughter is also using ChatGPT for some homework stuff and so on. So asking
Hey,
stuff.
the cat's out of the bag on that one.
Friedrich Schiller or whatever. He doesn't generate new stuff, so the thing is already there. Even when ChatGPT is kept in September or whatever, this dude lived 200 years or whatever before, so you can ask the system. So I think everybody discovered now from every different department, not only we engineers discovered OpenAI as a element to a new way to work.
Yeah,
Definitely.
it's here
I
to
actually
stay.
just got a ping while we were talking there from Lionel, hi, who mentioned that we still do have to do code reviews, but that doesn't change, right? Right now, we still do code reviews. Someone proposes a change to the Terraform configuration or whatever. Someone proposes a change to this feature to fix a bug or whatever. We're still going to have another engineer, possibly more than one, come in, look at it. Maybe a product person, depending on the scope, is going to come in, try to understand it. It goes through a review process before it goes pushed out live. That doesn't change, right? Just because it's ChatGPT or OpenAI or some other mechanism proposing the change, we still need to go through that process, right? So yeah, as you said, just kind of get used to it, play around with it, but understand that it's not magic, it's statistics, and that it's not going to replace, quote unquote, I'm not going to say the big thing, it's going to replace workers, but it's not going to replace the fact that we still, as before, and will continue need to do, review and have quality assurance processes in place before we push things to production.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Same question we had at the beginning with automation when we started in my time creating the first Jenkins instance. People feared that now they lose the way and so on. And we always say it, and I still say this, you're not going to lose, you just have more time for other things. So when we automated our CI and not to run it from export as jar in Eclipse or something like this, we have now time for other things. I was in a project before. It was named after the person we wanted to automate his work, because his name was Tanoko, and we called it Otonoko because he created packages in the company. His only work was during the day create deployment packages for the systems. And we said, this is not something it should be. So we automated the system as much as possible, and the person had now time to do other stuff, because honestly, we don't have millions of workers, especially in our field, who are highly qualified, paying them to do things a machine can do. And now this is the automation part, now we come to the AI part. Getting feedback, and don't create test data by hand or in Excel sheets. Ask the system and say, hey, create 5,000 test datas. And the system is giving you some interesting data.
There you go. Well, that brings it full circle then, right? We've run the whole gamut, and that's a perfect spot actually to call it, because we are at the hour mark. There's so much more to talk about. There's so much more rabbit holes to delve down. So many more directions to take this. And of course, we're still at the very, very early days of all this. It's a very, very exciting time to be a computer professional, I think, right? I think we're going to have a lot of fun with this. We're going to have a lot of foot guns going forward. Those are always really good learning opportunities as well. So once again, we're at the hour. I would like to thank our esteemed guest, today. Engin Diri, of course, from Pulumi, thank you so much for coming on and introducing us to some tooling, giving us your thoughts, letting us know about Pulumi AI. It's going to be a lot of fun to play around with going forward. And of course, I would like to thank you, the audience, as always, for participating, for sending us your questions, for giving us ideas about themes for future shows. We really, really like that as well, so please don't stop doing that. As always, like, subscribe, do all those things you're supposed to do. And we will see you next week. Until then, stay safe, everybody. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.